Have you ever encountered the victim mentality? I know that I have. There's something tempting about painting ourselves as victims, and that's what we're going to talk about in this video. Do you know there are real victims in the world? I'm sure you know it because our media, our movies, our stories that we enjoy are packed with those who are oppressed and victimized. We're obsessed with justice, and that's a good thing. That's a very good thing. But among the victims, did you know that there is another group that looks a lot like true victims, but there's something else entirely? And I think it's very important that we divide between these two groups. Number one, true victims. Number two, victimization opportunists. An opportunist is someone who's looking for an opportunity to take advantage of a certain situation. And so a victimization opportunist is someone who is looking for opportunities to become a victim on purpose so that they can take advantage of the opportunities that are given to victims. Now, on the subject of true victims, the Bible does have something to say about that. For the true victim, Psalms 82:3 says this: "Defend the cause of the weak and fatherless. Maintain the rights of the poor and oppressed." If you happen to be one of those people that loves to see justice for people who are oppressed, that's good. That's a godly characteristic. The Bible tells us to take care of those who need taking care of. The Bible tells us to vie for the true victims. And that's a good thing, because there are so many victims in the world that need your help. But then, among that crowd of victims, there are a type of wolves, so to speak. And I call them the victimization opportunist. We'll call them Vic Ops for short. Here's what I've written about Vic Ops in the past. A Vic Op is someone who uses disadvantaged circumstances for personal gain. They often become enraged to get what they want. The Vic Op has a perpetual victim mentality and is determined to be identified as a victim to the point where aggression, no matter how microscopic, must be avenged. Vic Ops often claim that aggression against them is aggression against the group they identify with. They're usually not satisfied with equality and justice, but are after social superiority. A Vic Op often co-ops the narrative of true victims, using those victims as a means to reach for the resources and attention available. Vic Ops often incite conflict so they can fill the role they are eager to be seen playing. Have you seen anyone like this in your society? I know that I have. In fact, I think this is happening at all levels, from corporate to government down to the personal level on the streets. So what should Christians do? Well, we can't fix the world that is full of Vic Ops, but we can look to how we ourselves behave. And we can do that by taking a look at what Peter once wrote. In 1 Peter 2:20 through 23, Peter wrote this: "Of course you get no credit for being patient if you're beaten for doing wrong." So he's talking about someone who does something wrong and then they get beat for it. Someone who seems to be looking for a victim mentality. Someone who seems to be looking for an opportunity to be a victim so that they can then brag about how well they did while they were being beaten. But Peter says, you don't get any credit for that. That's not good. You shouldn't do that. But he goes on, "But if you suffer for doing good and endure it patiently, God is pleased with you." So here we begin to see the difference between a Vic Op and a true victim. A true victim is someone who is just living their life, and in this verse, even doing something good, and they endure persecution for it, but they endure it patiently. And guess what? God is pleased with that person that endures persecution patiently. For God called you to do good, even if it means suffering. just as Christ suffered for you. He is your example, and you must follow his steps. Notice what the verse says here. He did not retaliate when he was insulted, nor threaten revenge when he suffered. He left his case in the hands of God, who always judges fairly. This, to me, would be medicine for our society, a society that is so enraged or outraged. How could you be enraged and outraged and that be the same thing? I don't know. I guess because we just are addicted to rage. We need what he says. He says he did not retaliate when he was insulted, nor threaten revenge when he suffered. He left his case in the hands of God, who always judges fairly. Apparently, he didn't have social media, because that's what social media seems to be about today. We need what Peter's talking about here. So, don't fall into the victim mentality. Don't become a victimization opportunist. If you've believed in Jesus, if you are a Christian and you have eternal life, then there is an expectation placed upon your life. Now, if you don't do well, you're not going to lose your salvation because of it. But it might damage the way you live, and it might hurt your life in the here and now.